Uh, Thank you very much, Chairman Kelly and Ranking Member Kramer, for holding this important hearing. I really appreciate it. Thank you to our witnesses for coming and talking about this. Roadway safety is incredibly important topic, and the efficient movement of people and cargo is what drives our economy. We need to make sure that flows smoothly throughout our country. Today, the trucking industry faces a variety of challenges, and they continue to innovate to be able to address those challenges. One of the things that you all have been talking about, for example, is the lack of parking. Not having truck parking cuts into driving time. It decreases safety for drivers and, of course, makes it difficult to recruit new drivers into the industry. There's a number of associations, community colleges, private industry, all looking to be able to how to address this through different creative options. Ms. Neville, can you elaborate on some of the specific impact truck parking shortage has had on workforce recruitment and development?
Absolutely. Well, truck parking is a part of a truck driver's life. That truck is their home, and so at the end of the day or whenever their shift is up, they have to have a place to park. And as I said in my opening statement, we are very short on truck parking spaces. There's 3.5 million drivers and only 313,000 truck parking spaces. So it definitely is a barrier to retaining drivers, number one. I think it's also a barrier for recruiting drivers. Quality of life is important to every truck driver and every trucking company as they work at trying to keep their truck drivers happy. And so when you talk to a truck driver, they will tell you about truck parking. Every female truck driver I've talked to that's either in the industry or potentially considering the industry will cite the lack of safe, well-lit, maintained, secure truck parking is one of their number one concerns. So I think that definitely speaks volumes.
And can you elaborate a little bit on that, especially with regard to the female truck drivers and maybe other people who don't feel safe around truck driving? What are some of the issues there?
For truck parking?
Truck parking, yeah.
I think the female truck drivers, just their fear of going to a place that's not lit, unsecured. And I think the other thing that we have to remember is if they can't find a place to park, then they're forced to park on an off-ramp or a shoulder, which poses a safety risk not only to that truck driver, but to the motoring public. And so I think that's definitely problematic, and we're seeing more and more of that as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've mentioned in the past is that the administration's drive for electric trucking is really detached from reality. It doesn't acknowledge that we've got a variety of different issues out there. Not only do we lack the infrastructure to accomplish it, but it would also be counterproductive to the administration's priorities with regard to worker safety and, frankly, lowering emissions as well. I've hosted a number of experts in my home state of Nebraska where we've talked about it, and what's very clear is that trying to focus solely on electric trucks will have a devastating consequence for consumers, your average American drivers, our economy, and the trucking industry and truck drivers. And especially when you're talking about their safety, we're talking about roads and bridges, all those things go on, the off-ramps where they're parking. Starting to talk just about the infrastructure, Ms. Neville, can you talk a little bit about the type of capacity that current charging infrastructure requires? Like, what would it take up for someone to have to go charge a heavy truck?
Well, currently, to charge a truck is, between 4 and 6 hours. And so that time alone, especially if we started putting these at rest areas for truck parking, that would eliminate places for all these other trucks that aren't electric. So that's definitely an issue. And
I was going to say, so what is an average break for a truck driver before they can come back on again?
Pardon me?
How long does a truck driver have to take a break between driving again? Is it about 10 hours?
Yes.
So if it takes you 6 hours to charge the truck, but you have to take a 10-hour break, that's 4 hours when they can't legally move that truck. Is that right?
That's right. So productivity is definitely impacted, which in turn the supply chain is disrupted. So we're all impacted by it.
Right. And so doesn't that mean that we can't push this very fast, because if we have 3.5 million drivers and 300,000 parking spaces, and now you're going to start taking them up in a less efficient way, you're going to even cut into that? Is that a fair assessment of what would happen to truck parking?
That is a fair assessment, absolutely.
All right. So if we also create this, I see I'm just about out of time. So I'm going to turn it back over to Chairman Fetterman now. Can I go for one more question? as much as I want, that's a dangerous thing to do, just so you know. But we're a couple of freshmen, so apparently they left a freshman in charge here. That's pretty dangerous. So if that doesn't, that also, if say we're cutting into our productivity with regard to truck driving because we've got 6 hours to charge, you have to take a 10-hour break, would that require more drivers?
Absolutely.
And haven't we already talked about that we have a shortage of drivers already?
78,000.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about what this would mean then with regard to how it's going to impact the workforce. I mean, wouldn't this strain the workforce even more so already?
With electric vehicles, with
Yes.
electric trucks, yes, absolutely. I think the thing that electric trucks are, our industry's been talking about this for a long time, technology, and I think with electric trucks, what I've told other legislators when I've talked to them in the state of Iowa, with electric trucks, we've sort of put the cart before the horse. There is technology that I think is workable and doable, but we need to have timelines and targets and fact-based science and universal, national freight standard or national standard for this. And we need to just slow down because it does impact us in a really negative way.
And then, with the sufferance of the chairman, I will continue since he did say I could have as much time as I wanted. No chairman has ever
They're great
said that.
questions, honestly. Yeah, good.
No chairman has ever said that to me before. In fact, Chairman Carper is usually trying to gavel me out. So one of the other characteristics of electric trucks is also you have to have two 8,000-pound batteries on them. Which
The weight is definitely a detriment.
Right. So isn't that also going to further then stretch the workforce?
Absolutely.
Because you
Yes.
cut your carrying capacity roughly in half?
Yes, they're limited in range. Electric trucks are limited in range. There is limited infrastructure, as you've mentioned, to support their deployment. And the other thing I think we have to talk about is the cost. The cost of electric trucks is 2 to 3 times the expense of the new clean diesel trucks. So all of that, all those factors will definitely have a detrimental effect.
Yeah. Ms. Mangan, let's talk a little bit about, just a little bit, because we talked about trucks being heavier. What would that do to roads?
Senator Ricketts, large trucks in particular do more damage to our highways. More weight can reduce the life of improvement on our highways, which may increase the need to invest dollars earlier in the highway life cycle. So yes, damage to the roadways.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your willingness to allow me to go on.